Hello everyone, this is Janet from Mixed Media Mama. Thank you so much for coming back. I am so excited to show you today my very first design team project for Devid at Elizabeth Craft Designs, the Art Journal Specials. He has released a kit, I believe last month, and it's all about ATCs. Now, if you're not familiar with ATCs, it's American trading cards. Years ago, it was a hot thing. Now it's coming back into a totally new look. Let me show you what this whole kit is about. But before I jump right into this and explain all of this, I am going to show you put out on here, and this is his whole kit. You can't even, and I apologize for the glare, but this is his whole kit that came out. It is a die kit, and it has the folder, the pockets, everything, the ATC sizes, and all of the other things that go along with it. There is also it is K016. I will put all in his Art Journals ATC Special. I will put all of that necessary information down below in the description about all of the kits, all of the dies, all of the stamps. You know, the usual. I am just thrilled. There is so much diversity in all of the kits, the collections that has come out. It is just fabulous, really fabulous. So what I did, I made this beautiful little folder, and it is about 3.5 by 5-ish, just under 5. It is the large die. And as you can see here, it is this large die right here. So what I'm just going to really bring it up close. It is closed by some crinkled ribbon that Sarah, hello Sarah, my friend gave me. It was the best gift ever in this snowy season, and I just closed it with a little bowl clip. And I just dyed it with some coffee, and it crinkled it up. Isn't that just so pretty? I think it's seam binding. It's single-sided seam binding, if I remember right. So what I am going to explain, now I have just moved recently into what we call in my family a river house. It's, long story short, that's how we know which place I'm going to be at. And so I only brought certain art supplies. As I unfold this, you see how lengthy it is. And so I only brought my distress oxide products, basically, and a few mediums. I know a lot of you, I'm such a goop person. I love texture. I love the mediums. I love the sprays. I do have all of my sprays here, but I left my paints and my heavy goops, as what I call them, at home on the farm. So I had to make do with what I had, and I absolutely had so much fun with this. All of the stamps here were from Elizabeth Craft Design, and many of them came with, and I will put all of those down. But if you can look beyond the stamps and see the coloration, it is the oxides. And you can use the oxides like watercolors. There are many videos out there. I'll let you go to Tim Holtz and look at that. But I wanted to have a watercolor background because that is one of the Journal Together's 2024 on Elizabeth Craft Design team is doing is just one of the many challenges, maybe, or just togetherness of using this month's prompt, January's watercolor. So I wanted to use what I had to make a watercolor look because I didn't bring my watercolors. But look at that. It really, I used 3 watercolors, and I will put those down below. And I used a lot of water. Now the paper that I used is mixed media paper. It's just from your everyday local art store. And because it has a little bit a heavier tooth rather than watercolor. Watercolor has the ability to absorb all of the media, the medium that goes on top of it. The mixed media paper gives it a little bit of a barrier. It doesn't absorb so readily and quickly. I did not gesso this at all. I just used the oxides and a whole lot of water, and it gave me the surface that I wanted to keep layering. And you all know I'm a layer queen. I absolutely love the layers. I used a lot of Elizabeth Craft Design stamps, and you can tell that some of the stamps are darker and some of the stamps are lighter. That's because the darker ones are the first generation stamp. That's what it's called when you ink the stamp and apply directly onto your surface. Then the second generation is something like this. It's a little bit lighter, and that is because the main of the ink is already stamped off. I usually keep a sheet of paper to the side, so when I ink my stamp, I stamp that first, and then I come here, second generation. And you can even see a lighter, same stamp, but a lighter. This is third generation. It just gives it a little visual texture, and I am loving the texture. I need the texture, whether it's a visual, whether it's tactile, it doesn't matter. But you see the depth, the darker ones pop. The next ones, you just got to keep looking at it. It's just is a really fun thing. And then with using, and that is on top of the oxides, which gives it a watercolor look. Isn't that just beautiful? And of course, I love to sew. I have my sewing machine right at my side. Not everybody likes to do that, but I do. And besides, it helps keep things very secure. And of course, I am just going to we're going to start with the inside of this. So in the coming future, near future, I am going to show how this is done. This is used, same color concept as the oxides, but in a little bit different method. And I learned this method. I used this on glassine paper. A Ranger had glassine paper a gazillion years ago, and I stocked up because I loved the look of it. But Louise Heinzel, she had a technique using the same and stamps, and that's how I got this. And I will do another video at a later date. But this is the size, a small size of the ATC. It was this one and this one. And then, of course, I just backed it on coffee dyed paper. So what I did is that on the inside of this, is that I backed this flip. A lot of the times you can just glue it right here. I just backed it using one of David's papers from his Rustic winter scene, or his collection, and it just really showed through. I loved that grunginess right there, if you can kind of see those. Isn't that just lovely? And it worked really well with the color scheme right here too. Love that, love that. So that's what I did. On the flip side of that same paper is this beautiful, and it just came right in. Now I'm going to take all of the tags out so you can absolutely see what I did. So the background is David's, the other side of David's Rustic Winter paper. I used his other die, an older die. I want to say it is, there it is. It is the Journal File 1 2014. And this is how I store mine. I have a different storage system. Everybody has their own storage system. So I used this die and I used the smaller die and this. Make today count. Because I thought that would just be kind of eclectic, but yet it just worked out. So these right here are, what I did is that I used just a piece of mixed media paper, used some sprays on it, dried those sprays, and I did the same concept of the oxide inks, just give it the watercolor look. I did the same thing with these, and then I went back with some glaze, some glaze, and then I cut it out using David's dies, and that's where you get this burst. It is just a beautiful, I love those colors. Isn't that just so pretty? And then of course I'm using the flowers because why not? That's the great thing about all of these collections. You can interact. I just love those flowers peeking out. And those flowers are from Art Journal's Floral Inserts 1783 and 1758 and 1787. And then of course I glazed them with the embossing glaze just to really pop. Loved that, loved it. Now here's a little trick. Here is a little tip. You see this little piece right here? That piece came from this side. I did not throw it away. I just used a little piece of scrap, put a little piece of fabric, a scrap piece of fabric, and glued it all together and made it into a belly band. Of course, I love small tags. I had some scrap paper around and a little bit of vintage map. And another one says, "You make me smile." This was just out of the same mixed media paper that I made the whole thing, the whole folder in, and backed it with an old vintage check. I love doing those things. You're using up your scraps, and see, it made it into a wonderful belly band. And of course, I love doing sewing. Now, this right here, underneath the flower, that is a round tea bag. I love drinking tea, love saving them, and it just gives it a wonderful different texture, adds to the whole thing. So going to the next one, that is, and of course, this is his die. Now, not everybody likes the little strings, but I absolutely do. And of course, that is the little leftover tag from another kit. I will list that one below. And that just looks so cute, right tucked in there. So the next one, same thing, same concept with different flowers. Same thing, I just used a half, but this little doodad right here is a shape from Devid's die kit. But this right here, it is a piece of coffee stained fabric, really old vintage fabric, very easy to tear, and I knew I could not put it, but I used a rub-on, a butterfly rub-on, because I kind of wanted to do a little botanical. I just thought that was kind of a grungy botanical, and of course I sewed around it. You can see the rub-on, but I made it into a pocket. Now here is a little leftover piece from the cover, stamped it, made it into a tag. Then right here, the last flap. Oh, let's go back here. Same concept for the ATC card. Each one of the pockets has its own card. Love the color scheme. It just all, see the eclecticness just all runs together. And then the last, same concept, but this time I put that other half of the tea bag that was on here, because there's always two sides of the tea bag, and I put it underneath this starburst, or this splatterburst. I'm not really sure. Either way, it's just so, I love the shape. Love, love, love. And then I just sewed it all together before I attached it to the front here. Love that. And then, of course, I die cutted Make Today Count out of a piece from the sheet that I used of the cover. And then I embossed, glazed it. Loved, and then I put a little piece of that same fabric that was right here, but I inked it up to make it darker so it would stand out. Then used Devid's same ATC. Love how that he has a little bit different sizes in that whole kit. I'm just gonna go back to that again and point that out to you. Not only do you have the standard ATC's cards, but you have a little bit smaller, and this has the embossed, like a stitched, so you don't even need to have a sewing machine if you don't want to. But then it is a smaller version too, and I love that, and that's where this comes from. It's just lovely. And then of course the die goes along with that, and the stamp set too, and then just tucks right in there. Oops. Well, let me take this out first. There. Love that grungy look. Love that grungy look. It's so, and every paper that you do that same technique from Louisa Heinzel is, and I will do a video, but I will refer to hers because that's where I learned it. But I have used it on different papers to get different looks. And of course, that just goes there. And I could just close it with the seam binding. A lot of the times that I just use different ribbons, I love that texture of everything, and it just works out really well. But this time I wanted to use, I got that special gift from Sarah. Thank you so much, Sarah. It was just, it seals the deal. Yep. So there's my first project for Elizabeth Craft Designs Art Journal Special using the ATC collection. Thank you so much, and like and subscribe to everything below, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Thank you. Bye.